There is a specific quality to the silence that falls over the world when the sun finally retreats below the horizon. It is not merely a cessation of noise, it is a deepening of the air itself. The blue fades to a bruised purple, then to a charcoal gray, and finally the great heavy curtain of the true universe is drawn back. If you stand very still in a quiet place, perhaps on the edge of a desert, or the shore of a sleeping ocean, or even in a darkened room with a window facing the south, you can feel the earth turning. You can feel the ground beneath your feet carrying you eastward, rolling away from the light, turning its face toward the infinite. When we look up into that abyss, our first instinct is to feel a sense of profound, unshakable peace. The stars are there, fixed and diamond-hard, arranged in the same patterns that greeted the Babylonians, the Mayans, and the sailors of the ancient Pacific. The Great Bear has not moved. Orion still hunts in the winter sky, his belt of 3 bright stars perfectly aligned. To the human eye, which lives for only a flickering moment of cosmic time, the heavens appear to be a frozen tableau. They are a museum of light, preserved in amber, timeless and unchanging. This stillness is the greatest illusion in nature. It is a deception born of a scale so immense that our minds cannot truly grasp it. In reality, the peace of the night sky is a mask hiding a violence and a speed that defies comprehension. Every single point of light you see is a roaring nuclear furnace, screaming through the void at hundreds of thousands of kilometers per hour. Nothing is sitting still. The ground you stand on is spinning at 1,000 kilometers an hour. It is orbiting the sun at 100,000. And the sun itself is dragging us through the arm of the Milky Way at nearly 1,000,000. We are adrift on a frantic, rushing ocean, and we are not alone. Beyond the stars we can see with our naked eyes, beyond the comfortable glow of our local constellations, lie the other islands, the galaxies. They are the titans of the cosmos, great swirling cities of dust and fire, each containing hundreds of billions of suns. And just like the stars, they are moving. They are dancing, drifting, and falling through the dark. Gravity, the oldest and most patient force in the universe, is constantly reaching out across the light years, invisible fingers tugging at the fabric of space, seeking to pull these massive structures together. Gravity is a hunger. It wants to collapse the many into the one. It wants to drag the archipelago of the universe into a single, crushed pile of wreckage. Given the billions of years that have passed since the dawn of time, and given the relentless, infinite reach of gravity, we are faced with a terrifying question. Why has the sky not fallen? Why is the universe not a graveyard of collisions? Why are we allowed to exist in this quiet, stable pocket of space, looking up at a darkness that is not filled with the fire of crashing worlds? To answer this, we must first surrender our human sense of scale. We must peel away the atmosphere, strip away the comforting blue sky, and float out into the reality of the void. The primary reason that galaxies avoid collision is not some complex force field or exotic energy, at least not at first. It is simply a matter of room. The universe is shockingly, terrifyingly empty. We are accustomed to crowding. On Earth, life fights for space. Trees wrestle for sunlight in the canopy. Roots tangle in the soil. Cities sprawl until they touch one another. We project this crowdedness onto the sky. We see photos from the Hubble Space Telescope, frames packed with thousands of glittering galaxies, spiraling in every color of the spectrum, and we assume the cosmos is a busy, congested place. But those images are misleading. They are long exposure photographs, zooming in on a tiny sliver of the dark, collecting light for days to make the invisible visible. They compress the depth of the universe onto a flat sheet, making it look like a crowded room. The reality is more akin to a lonely ocean. Imagine, if you can, that the Milky Way galaxy, our home, a disk of stars 100,000 light-years across, is reduced to the size of a small white dinner plate. If we were to float this plate on a dark lake to represent the cosmos, where would the next plate be? Where is the Andromeda Galaxy, our nearest large neighbor? It would not be touching us. It would not even be within arm's reach. If the Milky Way is a dinner plate, Andromeda is another plate floating nearly 7 meters away. And between them, nothing. Just empty, silent water. And these are the close neighbors. For most galaxies, the distance to the next major structure is far, far greater. The universe is like a Pacific Ocean, where the islands are scattered thousands of kilometers apart. This vast emptiness is the first guardian of order. Matter is a rare anomaly in the universe. The void is the rule. The stars are the exception. The reason galaxies do not collide every day or even every eon is largely because they simply cannot find one another in the dark. They are lonely wanderers in a desert that has no horizon. The sheer volume of nothingness is the greatest defense against catastrophe. To collide, two galaxies must not only occupy the same region of space, but their trajectories must intersect with absolute precision across distances that are measured in millions of light years. It is like two archers standing on opposite sides of the earth, firing arrows blindly into the sky, hoping the tips will strike one another over the Atlantic. The vectors of momentum carry them on long, lonely paths. Most galaxies will spend their entire existence, from the first ignition of their stars to the final fading of their embers, without ever touching another object. They will spin in solitude, their histories written in isolation. But space is not just distance. It is also a time machine. When we look up, we are looking back. The light from a galaxy that left its source when the first amphibians were crawling out of the oceans on Earth is only just reaching our telescopes now. We are seeing ghosts. This delay creates another layer to the illusion of stillness. If a collision were happening 100 million light years away, we would see it not as a sudden crash, but as a frozen sculpture. A galaxy merger, a violent and transformative event where two structures become one, takes hundreds of millions of years to unfold. To a human life which flickers out in less than a century, these cosmic events appear completely static. We live too quickly to see the violence. We are like mayflies watching the movement of a glacier. To us, the ice is stone. It never moves. But if we could speed up time, if we could compress 1 billion years into a single hour, the tapestry of the night would tear open. In this accelerated view, the heavens would boil. We would see the galaxies swarming, flowing in great rivers of gravity. We would see them dancing around one another, distorting, twisting, and yes, occasionally crashing. But even then, the crash is deceptive. Because the universe is so empty, even when galaxies do collide, it is almost never a physical impact of star against star. A galaxy is mostly empty space, just like the void between them. The distance between the Sun and our nearest stellar neighbor, Proxima Centauri, is roughly 30 trillion kilometers. If two galaxies, each containing 100 billion stars, were to pass directly through one another, the probability of even two individual stars colliding is close to zero. They would pass like two ghosts walking through each other in a hallway. They would slip through the gaps. The gas clouds would crash, sparking new stars, but the suns themselves would survive, rearranged but unbroken. So, the first answer to the mystery of our safety is the void itself. We are safe because we are small, and the stage we stand upon is frighteningly large. However, distance alone is not enough to explain the peace. If gravity is the only force at play, and if time is infinite, then eventually the plates on the lake should drift together. Gravity is relentless. It does not sleep. It does not tire. Over trillions of years, it should slowly drag every galaxy across the void until the universe collapses into a single, super-dense knot of destruction. The emptiness delays the inevitable, but it should not prevent it. Why, then, are the distant galaxies not rushing toward us? Why do we not see the blue shift of approaching doom in every direction? This is where the story of the night takes a turn into the strange. For centuries, we believed the space between the stars was static, a fixed stage upon which the drama of the universe played out. We thought the void was merely a container, indifferent and unchanging. It was a comforting thought. It meant that the universe you see tonight is the same universe that existed yesterday and the same one that will exist tomorrow. But in the early 20th century, humanity learned that the stage itself is an actor. We discovered that the light from distant galaxies is stretching. It is shifting toward the red end of the spectrum, the color of low energy, the color of retreat. This red shift was a message from the deep past, a telegram sent from the edge of the visible world. It told us that the silence of the night is not the silence of a painting. It is the silence of an explosion that is still happening. The universe is not a room. It is a breath. It is exhaling. The fabric of space is not fixed. It is stretching, growing, expanding. Every second that you stand under the night sky, looking at a star that belongs to a distant galaxy, that star is retreating from you. The space between your eye and that object is getting physically larger. It is a river that flows outwards in all directions, carrying the boats of the galaxies farther and farther apart. This expansion is the great counterforce to gravity. It is the wind that blows against the tide. While gravity tries to pull the cosmos together, the expansion of space tries to tear it apart. For the vast majority of the universe, for the deep, lonely stretches of the intergalactic void, expansion is winning. It creates more emptiness every day. It widens the gaps, making it harder and harder for galaxies to bridge the divide and collide. We are drifting in a vast, expanding sea, and the other islands are being pushed over the horizon. There is a profound melancholy in this realization. The safety of our galaxy, the reason we are not constantly bombarded by other massive structures, is bought at the price of isolation. We are safe because we are being pushed away from everyone else. The tapestry of the night is stretching, the threads becoming thinner and thinner. As we prepare to rest, to let our own minds drift into the darkness of sleep, we can take comfort in this isolation. It is a shield. The immense, uncrossable gulfs of nothingness are the walls of our fortress. The light we see is a survivor, having traveled through the cold hazards of the void to reach our retinas. It reminds us that we are part of a delicate balance. We exist in the tension between two great cosmic titans, the gravity that binds us together and the expansion that pulls us apart. And yet, even in this vastness, There are local stories. There are exceptions. Gravity is weak over great distances, but close to home it is powerful. It is patient. In our own corner of the universe, the rules seem to bend. The expansion of the universe is happening everywhere, but here, in our local neighborhood, gravity has held the line. It has carved out a small, calm eddy in the rushing river of the cosmos. We are small creatures, living brief lives on a fragile world. We fear the collision, the catastrophe, the end of things. We look at the craters on the moon, scars of a violent past, and we know that space is not always a gentle place. Stones fall from the sky, fire rains down, but on the grandest scale, on the scale of galaxies, the universe is surprisingly gentle. It keeps its children separated. It provides them with room to breathe, to spin, to evolve. The darkness between the stars is not merely empty space. It is a reservoir of time. It is a cushion. It is the reason we are here to ask the question at all. If the universe were crowded, if galaxies were packed tight, like stones in a riverbed, life would likely never have had the stability to arise. Planetary systems would be ripped apart by passing stars. The sky would be a blinding wall of radiation. There would be no quiet nights, no seasons of peace, no safe harbors for biology to take hold. So, the emptiness is a gift. The silence is a blessing. As we lie in the dark, listening to the wind or the stillness of our own homes, we can imagine the great, slow breathing of the cosmos. It is breathing out, expanding, pushing the danger away, creating a sanctuary in the void. We are floating in a bubble of safety, crafted by the physics of the very beginning. But what is this expansion? What is the energy that drives it? And what of the invisible scaffolding that holds the galaxies in their clusters, preventing them from flying apart completely? The night sky hides more than it reveals. The stars we see are merely the decorations on a structure that is largely invisible to us. There are ghosts in the room, matter we cannot see, energy we cannot feel, yet which dictate the fate of every star and every planet. To understand why we do not collide, we must look past the light. We must look into the shadows between the stars. We must understand that the universe is not just a collection of glowing objects, but a dynamic, living fabric that is being pulled and pushed by hands we are only just beginning to perceive. The journey into that darkness is a journey into the unknown. It requires us to let go of our human intuition, which tells us that empty space is nothing. In the cosmos, empty space is everything. It is the stage, the director, and the barrier. It is the silence that allows the music of the spheres to be heard. Let us drift now, away from the solid ground of Earth, away from the comfort of the constellations we know. Let us float outward, past the moon, past the cold giants of Jupiter and Neptune, and into the deep interstellar night. Here, the sun is just another star, no brighter than the rest. Here, the Milky Way surrounds us, a ring of dust and fire, and beyond it, the great darkness awaits. It is a darkness not of malice, but of potential. It is the darkness of a library, after hours, full of stories waiting to be read. And the first story, it tells us, is one of solitude, of a universe that protects its creations by giving them space, infinite, glorious space. If you were to stand in the absolute quiet of an empty room, holding your breath, you might eventually hear the thrum of your own pulse, the rhythmic assertion of life flowing through your veins. The universe, too, has a pulse. It has a breath. For thousands of years, we believed the cosmos was a statue, a frozen monument of marble and diamond, perfect and unyielding. We believed that the space between the stars was merely a void, a nothingness that served only to separate one object from another. But the universe is not a statue. It is a living, growing entity. It is breathing in a deep, agonizingly slow inhalation that has lasted for billions of years. And with every moment that passes, the chest of the cosmos expands, pushing the ribs of the galaxies farther and farther apart. This expansion is the single most profound truth of our reality, and it is the primary reason the night sky remains a place of order rather than a chaotic storm of colliding worlds. To understand this breath, we must travel back in time, not to the beginning of the universe, but to a cold, clear night in the mountains of California in the 1920s. The air on Mount Wilson is thin and sharp, smelling of pine needles and observatory oil. Here a man named Edwin Hubble sat in the dark, night after night, shivering beneath the open dome of the largest telescope the world had ever seen. He was not looking for peace, he was looking for measurement. At that time, humanity was debating the very nature of the heavens. Many astronomers believed that the Milky Way was the entirety of the universe, that everything we saw, every smudge of light, was contained within our own island. But as Hubble peeled back the layers of the dark, capturing the faint, ghostly light of the spiral nebulae on glass photographic plates, he discovered something that shattered our conception of reality. He realized that these spirals were not clouds of gas within our home. They were other homes, entirely separate galaxies, island universes drifting in the great ocean of the night. And they were not sitting still. When light travels through space, it behaves like a wave on the ocean. If a boat is moving toward you, the waves bunch up, hitting the shore in rapid succession. If the boat is moving away, the waves stretch out, becoming long and lazy. In the language of light, a stretched wave turns red. It shifts toward the lower energy, the color of dying embers. Hubble looked at the light coming from these distant islands and saw that almost all of them were blushing. They were shifted toward the red. They were running away from us. This was not a random scattering. It was a coordinated retreat. The farther away a galaxy was, the faster it was fleeing. It was as if the universe itself had taken a sudden fright and was scattering in all directions. But this is where the imagination must stretch, just like the light. It is not that the galaxies are moving through space like ships powering their engines to sail across a sea. It is the sea itself that is growing. The fabric of space, the invisible canvas upon which the stars are painted, is stretching. Imagine drawing 2 dots on a rubber band and then slowly pulling it taut. The dots do not move across the rubber. They stay exactly where they are drawn. Yet the distance between them grows. This is the breath of the cosmos. New space is being created out of nothingness, inserted between the galaxies, pushing them apart. Every second, millions of kilometers of fresh emptiness are born. The gap between us and the distant clusters of galaxies widens, not because they are moving, but because the ground beneath their feet is expanding. This relentless expansion is the great peacekeeper of the universe. It is a cosmic quarantine. Without this expansion, gravity would have a much easier task. Gravity is a force of infinite patience. It reaches across the universe, trying to pull everything into a single embrace. If the universe were static, if it were not growing, gravity would slowly draw every galaxy toward every other galaxy. Over eons, the subtle tugs would become a rush. the universe would contract. The majestic spirals would crash into one another, merging into monstrous, chaotic blobs of stars. The night sky would not be black. It would eventually become a blinding wall of light as all matter rushed toward a common center, but the expansion fights back. It acts as a repulsive force, a wind blowing against the tide of gravity. For galaxies that are far apart, the expansion is stronger than the gravitational attraction. The space between them grows faster than they can fall toward each other. They are like swimmers trying to meet in a river that is flowing away from them faster than they can stroke. They are destined to remain apart, forever isolated by the growing waters of the void. This is why collisions are relatively rare on the grand scale. The universe is essentially running away from itself. It is ensuring that its children remain separated, giving them the solitude they need to mature. Consider the sheer power of this expansion. It is silent, invisible, and unstoppable. It operates in the deepest silence of the intergalactic voids. In those regions where there is nothing, no stars, no dust, just pure, cold vacuum, the expansion is most potent. It swells the voids, making the empty places of the universe larger and larger. It pushes the walls of the galaxies away from the center of these voids, treating the great clusters of stars like foam on the crest of a wave. This protects us. We live in a universe that is diluted. If the cosmos were a soup, it would be a broth so thin that you could spoon through it for a lifetime and never catch a carrot or a potato. The density of the universe is incredibly low. Because space is expanding, the average density of matter drops with every passing moment. We are becoming more ghostly, more scattered. There is a quiet tragedy in this safety. The very force that prevents us from being destroyed by constant collisions is also the force that ensures our ultimate loneliness. As the expansion accelerates, it pushes distant galaxies beyond our horizon. There are galaxies we can see today, faint smudges of light in our most powerful telescopes that are crossing a point of no return. The space between us and them is stretching faster than the speed of light. Their light, trying to reach us, is like a runner on a treadmill that is speeding up. Eventually, the treadmill will win. The light will never reach us. Those galaxies will simply fade from view, vanishing into the impossible distance, lost to us forever. We are safe, but we are being stranded. However, this expansion is a gentle giant. It respects the boundaries of the local. You might wonder, if space is expanding, why doesn't the Earth expand? Why doesn't the solar system fly apart? Why do my own atoms not drift away from one another? The answer lies in the battle between the forces. Expansion is relentless, but it is remarkably weak on small scales. In a battle between the expansion of the universe and the gravity of the Earth, gravity wins effortlessly. The Earth holds you down. The sun holds the Earth. The galaxy holds the sun. The bonds of gravity and the bonds of electromagnetism that hold your body together are far, far stronger than the gentle swelling of space. Think of it like a stream of water flowing over a bed of rocks. The water moves, it flows, it carries away loose sand and leaves, but the heavy stones remain. They are bound by their own weight, anchored to the riverbed. We and our galaxy are the heavy stones. The expansion flows around us, carrying the distant, loose debris away, but it cannot break the bonds of our local gravity. We are an island of stability in a rising ocean. This interplay creates a universe of clusters and voids. It is not a smooth batter, but a web. The expansion clears out the empty spaces, making them emptier. while gravity pulls the matter together into dense protective knots. Collisions happen within these knots, within the rocks of the river, but the knots themselves are being pushed apart. So, when we ask why galaxies do not collide more frequently, the answer is that the universe is stacking the deck against interaction. It is creating distance faster than gravity can bridge it. It is a race, and for the most part, the void is winning. But what is driving this expansion? For decades, we thought it was simply the leftover momentum of the Big Bang, the aftershock of the great explosive birth of time. We thought that eventually gravity might slow it down, that the universe would take a breath in, hold it, and then begin to exhale, collapsing back in on itself. We thought the expansion was slowing down, like a ball thrown into the air that eventually loses its speed and falls back to Earth. We were wrong. In the late 1990s, astronomers looked at distant, exploding stars, supernovae, to measure the speed of the expansion over time. They expected to see the brakes being applied. Instead, they found that the universe is stepping on the accelerator. The expansion is getting faster. The breath is not shallowing. It is deepening, becoming more urgent. There is a mysterious energy filling the empty space, a pressure that pushes outward. We call it dark energy, a name that admits we do not know what it is, only what it does. It makes up the vast majority of the energy in the cosmos, a silent, invisible engine that is driving the galaxies apart with ever-increasing speed. It is the ultimate guardian against collision. It ensures that the future of the universe is one of increasing isolation, of vast, unsurpassable distances. It is a humbling thought to stand under the night sky and realize that the stillness is an illusion created by our own brief lifespans. If we could see with the eyes of eternity, we would see the stars rushing away, the dark spaces between them swelling like lungs filling with air. We would see a universe that is desperate to become empty. And yet, despite this overwhelming force of separation, despite the billions of light years of stretching void, our own galaxy is not alone. We have neighbors. We are not drifting in total isolation. We are part of a group, a small family of galaxies that defy the expansion. We are held together by something we cannot see, something that anchors us against the rising tide. The expansion explains why the distant galaxies leave us alone, but it does not explain why our local cluster remains intact. It does not explain why the Milky Way spins as fast as it does without flying apart like a poorly made flywheel. There is another ghost in the room. If dark energy is the wind blowing the leaves apart, there is another invisible hand gathering them together, cupping them in its palms, shielding them from the storm of expansion. We must now turn our gaze from the bright, retreating lights of the distance to the shadows in our own backyard. We must look for the glue that holds the sanctuary together. We must enter the realm of the invisible matter that outweighs the stars, the silent shepherd that guides the galaxies along their paths and prevents them from drifting into the total oblivion of the void. The universe is expanding, yes, but it is also being held, and the nature of that hold is one of the greatest mysteries of our time. Imagine for a moment that you are standing on the edge of a frozen lake at midnight. The ice is black and polished, reflecting the stillness of the moon. If you were to slide a heavy stone across this surface, it would glide in a straight line, carried by its own momentum until friction slowly brought it to a halt. But imagine if, halfway across the lake, the stone suddenly swerved. Imagine it began to trace a wide, perfect circle curving against the logic of its own motion, held in an orbit by a tether you could not see. You would know instantly and instinctively that something was there. Even if the rope was made of glass, even if the hand holding it was cloaked in shadow, the motion of the stone would betray the presence of the unseen. This is exactly where we found ourselves when we first looked closely at the rotation of the galaxies. For centuries, astronomers watched the majestic spiral arms of galaxies, like Andromeda and the Whirlpool Galaxy. They saw them as great celestial flywheels, spinning in the silence of the void. It was assumed that these structures obeyed the simple, intuitive laws of gravity that we observe here on our own solar system. In our system, the planets closest to the Sun, Mercury and Venus, race around their orbits at breakneck speeds to avoid falling in, while the distant giants, Neptune and Pluto, move with a slow, stately grace, drifting lazily through the outer dark. The farther you are from the center of gravity, the slower you should move. That is the rule of the Keplerian dance. But when we trained our spectrometers on the outer edges of distant galaxies, measuring the speed of stars that reside on the lonely fringes, we saw something impossible. The stars at the edge were not slowing down. They were racing. They were tearing through space at nearly the same speed as the stars near the densely packed core. By all the laws of physics known to Newton or Einstein, these galaxies should not exist. They were spinning so fast that the gravity of the visible stars and gas clouds should have been too weak to hold them together. They should have flung themselves apart billions of years ago, their stars scattering into the intergalactic void like droplets of water shaking off a spinning dog. But they did not scatter. They held their shape. The beautiful, coherent spirals remained intact. It was as if the visible galaxy, the glowing collection of billions of suns, was merely the tip of an iceberg, and the vast majority of the mass was hiding beneath the surface of the dark. We call this hidden mass dark matter, but the name is a placeholder for our ignorance. It is not dark like a shadow. A shadow is created by light. It is dark like a ghost. It does not reflect light. It does not absorb light, and it does not emit light. It passes through our telescopes, our planets, and our own bodies, as if we were made of mist. Yet it has weight. It has gravity. And there is so much of it, 5 times more than all the stars, gas, and planets combined, that it is the true architect of the universe. This invisible substance creates a vast, 3-dimensional web that stretches across the entire cosmos. It is the scaffolding of reality. And this web is the second great reason why galaxies do not crash into one another in a chaotic, random storm. Think of the universe not as a random scattering of galaxies, like dust motes floating in a room, but as a structured lattice, like the veins of a leaf or the neural pathways of a brain. This structure is built of dark matter. In the early universe, mere moments after the dawn of time, this dark fluid began to clump together under its own weight. It formed long, invisible filaments, great rivers of gravity stretching across the void for millions of light years. These filaments are the highways of the cosmos. Ordinary matter, the hydrogen gas that would eventually ignite to become stars, was drawn into these dark valleys. It flowed like water running down a hill, pooling in the deepest gravitational pockets to form the galaxies we see today. This means that galaxies are not drifting aimlessly. They are tethered. They are caught in the gravitational embrace of these massive dark matter filaments. They move along these invisible roads, guided by the heavy hand of the dark. This structure acts as a form of traffic control on a cosmic scale. By confining galaxies to these filaments and clusters, dark matter leaves vast regions of the universe completely empty. These are the cosmic voids, immense bubbles of nothingness that span hundreds of millions of light years. Because the dark matter has shepherded the galaxies onto the walls and threads of the web, the interior of the voids remains desolate. A galaxy cannot simply wander off into the void and crash into a random neighbor because the gravity of the web pulls it back. It is stuck to the track. This organization prevents random, chaotic collisions. If galaxies were distributed evenly and moved randomly, the history of the universe would be a history of constant, destructive billiards. Instead, the universe is segregated. The vast majority of space is a no-go zone, a safe harbor of emptiness where nothing happens. The action is confined to the filaments, but even within these filaments, dark matter acts as a stabilizing cushion. Each galaxy is not just a disk of stars sitting naked in space. It is embedded in the center of a massive spherical cloud of dark matter known as a halo. Imagine a pearl suspended in the center of a large ball of clear gelatin. The pearl is the galaxy, the shining stars, the spiral arms, the nebulae. The gelatin is the dark matter halo. This halo extends far, far beyond the visible edge of the galaxy. When we look at the Andromeda Galaxy, we see a disk of light. But if we could see gravity, we would see a gigantic sphere 10 times wider than the visible stars, bumping up against the halos of its neighbors. This halo acts as a buffer. When two galaxies approach each other, they do not crash like two billiard balls, creating a sharp, instant shock. They interact through their halos first. The invisible spheres brush against one another, their gravities mingling long before the stars ever get close. This interaction is slow and viscous. The dark matter absorbs the energy of the encounter. It creates a drag, a friction that slows the galaxies down and dictates the terms of their engagement. Sometimes this halo prevents a direct collision. If two galaxies are moving past each other at high speed, the gravity of their halos might tug at them, bending their paths, sending them swinging around each other in a wide arc. They might dance and separate, flung back out into the dark by the complex interplay of their invisible shields. Without the mass of the dark matter anchoring them, their paths might be more erratic, more prone to the chaos of direct impact. But perhaps the most profound role of this invisible web is how it dictates the speed of cosmic evolution. Dark matter is cold. In the language of astrophysics, cold means it moves slowly. It is not a frenetic, hot gas buzzing with energy. It is a slow, lumbering giant. Because it moves slowly, it allows structure to build up gradually over billions of years. If dark matter were hot, if it zipped around at the speed of light, it would have smoothed out the universe, preventing galaxies from forming at all, or it would have created a universe so chaotic that stable orbits would be impossible. The coldness of dark matter creates a sedate universe. It creates a universe where things happen in slow motion. It holds the galaxies in a tight grip, damping down the wild oscillations that might otherwise send them careening into disaster. There is a deep sense of awe in realizing that the things we can see, the bright stars, the glowing gas, the planets, the trees, our own bodies, are merely the garnish on the plate of the universe. We are the foam on top of the ocean. The true ocean, the deep, heavy, driving force of reality is invisible to us. We are walking through a room filled with ghosts. Right now, as you lie still, particles of dark matter are streaming through the roof of your home, passing through your skin, and continuing down into the earth, utterly indifferent to your existence. They do not interact with the electromagnetic force, which means they cannot touch you, nor you them. They pass like shadows through a wall. Yet, without them, the galaxy that houses our sun would dissolve. The centrifugal force of our rotation would tear the solar system away from the galactic core, and we would be cast adrift in the intergalactic medium, cold and alone. The dark matter holds us. It is the silent shepherd. It keeps the flock together, and it creates a sense of grand architectural permanence. When we look at the computer simulations of the universe, vast purple and black cubes filled with glowing webs, we see that the galaxies are like dewdrops caught on a spider's web in the morning mist. They are fragile, shining beads. But the web itself is strong. The web dictates the shape of the water. This structure ensures that collisions, when they do happen, are not accidents. They are scheduled events. They happen because the web guides two galaxies together, flowing down the filaments of gravity toward the dense nodes where the clusters live. It is a controlled demolition, not a random accident. And because the universe is expanding, stretching this web tighter and thinner, the lanes of traffic are moving apart. The dark matter filaments are being stretched by the dark energy we spoke of earlier. The web is expanding. The distance between the filaments grows. The highways are being pulled apart, taking their cargo of galaxies with them. So, we find ourselves in a universe that is doubly protected. We are protected by the sheer scale of the expanding voids which push the danger away. And we are protected by the dark matter halos and filaments which constrain the movement of galaxies, keeping them on predictable paths, preventing them from wandering into the path of destruction like ships without rudders. It is a strange comfort to know that we are held by a mystery. We do not know what dark matter is made of. We have built detectors deep underground, in abandoned gold mines and beneath mountains, waiting for a single atom of this dark substance to ping against a tank of liquid xenon. We wait in the silence of the earth for a whisper from the invisible universe. But so far, it has remained silent. It refuses to speak to us. It only speaks through gravity. It speaks through the way it bends the light of distant stars, acting as a lens. It speaks through the rotation of the spiral arms. It tells us, "I am here. I am holding you. Do not be afraid of the dark, for the dark is the very thing that keeps you whole." As we drift deeper into this journey, we must acknowledge that while the universe at large is expanding and separating, there are places where the web is thick, where the gravity of the dark matter has won the battle against the expansion. There are places where the galaxies have not flown apart, but have huddled together for company. We live in such a place. Our own galaxy, the Milky Way, is not a lonely traveler. We are part of a tribe. We are part of a clan called the local group. And here in our local neighborhood, the rules of expansion are suspended. Here, the dance is intimate. Here, the ancient waltz of gravity continues, a slow-motion fall that has lasted for 13 billion years. While the rest of the universe runs away, our neighbors are coming closer. We are locked in a gravitational embrace with the Andromeda Galaxy, guided by the invisible hands of our shared dark matter halo. We are safe from the chaotic bombardment of the wider cosmos, but we are not static. We are moving toward a destiny that was written before the earth was born. To understand our safety, we must understand our motion. We must look at the slow, graceful convergence of the local group and see how even in a merger, even in the collision of titans, there is a strange and beautiful order. The violence of the cosmos is not a crash. It is a marriage. And it is happening right now, in the silence above your head. While the vast majority of the cosmos is rushing away from us, fleeing into the deepening dark on the back of an expanding fabric, there is a quiet exception close to home. If the universe is a boundless ocean, whose currents are carrying all ships apart, then our local corner of space is a calm lagoon where the waters are still swirling together. In this sanctuary, gravity has refused to surrender. It has built a fortress against the expansion, a gravitational archipelago we call the local group. This is our village. It is a collection of roughly 54 galaxies bound together by invisible tethers of mass and dark matter, drifting through the void as a single cohesive family. Within this family, the rules of the great expansion do not apply. Here, the space is not stretching apart. It is tightening. Here, the galaxies are not running away. They are turning toward one another, preparing for a dance that has been choreographed since the very first stars ignited in the primordial gloom. The most prominent dancer in this ballet, our partner in the dark, is a spiral of breathtaking beauty known to us as Andromeda. To the naked eye of an observer standing on a quiet hillside in the northern hemisphere, Andromeda appears as nothing more than a faint smudge of milk spilled against the black velvet of the constellation of the same name. It is a ghost of light, so subtle that you must look slightly away from it to see it clearly, allowing the sensitive rods of your peripheral vision to catch its glow. The ancient Persian astronomer Abd al-Rahman al-Sufi, watching the skies from Isfahan more than 1,000 years ago, described it simply as a little cloud. He saw it as a static stain on the firmament, a mystery that did not move. But if we could strip away the limitations of human vision and see with the eyes of a god, that little cloud would span 6 times the width of the full moon. It would dominate the night, a swirling vortex of 1 trillion stars, larger and more luminous than our own Milky Way. And it is not static. It is falling toward us. While the distant galaxies are red-shifted, blushing as they flee, Andromeda is blue-shifted. The light waves from its trillion suns are being compressed, squeezed toward the blue end of the spectrum as it races through the gap between us. It is closing the distance at a speed of 110 kilometers per second. With every hour that passes, the gap between our 2 great civilizations shrinks by nearly 400,000 kilometers. We are falling into each other's arms. This motion is not a crash in the way we understand collisions on Earth. It is not a violent, shattering impact of metal on metal. It is a waltz. It is a slow, billions-year-long embrace that unfolds with the agonizing grace of a flower blooming in winter. The space between stars is so immense that when galaxies meet, they do not smash. They pass through one another. Imagine 2 swarms of bees flying toward each other in a meadow. When the swarms meet, the individual bees do not collide. The space between the bees is vast compared to the size of their bodies. They simply fly past one another, the 2 clouds merging into one chaotic, buzzing mass. So it will be with the Milky Way and Andromeda. The chances of any 2 stars physically crashing into each other are vanishingly small. our sun will likely never touch another star. The Earth will not be shattered by a rogue planet. Instead, the collision will be gravitational. It will be a disturbance of the tides. Let us cast our minds forward, drifting through the river of time to an era 4 billion years from now. The Earth is older, the sun has brightened, perhaps the oceans have begun to thin, but the view from the surface is spectacular beyond words. Night after night, for millions of years, the little cloud of Andromeda has grown. It has swelled from a smudge to a disk, and then to a colossal presence that fills the field of view. It hangs in the sky like a second Milky Way, tilted at an angle, its spiral arms clearly visible, glowing with the soft light of billions of alien worlds. The night is no longer dark. It is washed in the silver luminescence of the approaching giant. As the two galaxies finally begin to touch, the sky becomes a canvas of abstract art. The gravity of Andromeda grabs the edge of the Milky Way, and the gravity of the Milky Way grabs the edge of Andromeda. The delicate, perfect spirals that have defined our shapes for eons begin to warp. Great streamers of stars are pulled out into the void, long tails of light arcing across the heavens like the ribbons of a rhythmic gymnast. We call these tidal tails, vast bridges of stars stretching for thousands of light years, thrown out by the sheer centrifugal joy of the dance. The band of the Milky Way, that familiar river of white that cuts across our summer sky, begins to twist. It distorts, bending under the weight of the newcomer. The orderly procession of the heavens is broken. The stars are shaken from their orbits, finding new paths around the combined center of gravity. And then the gas clouds collide. While the stars miss each other, the great nebulae, the clouds of hydrogen and dust that sit between the stars, slam together with the force of 1,000,000 hurricanes. Shock waves ripple through the gas. This compression wakes the sleeping potential of the cosmos. It triggers a firestorm of birth. Millions of new stars ignite at once, lighting up the wreckage with the brilliant, fierce blue glow of newborn suns. The night sky of the future Earth is ablaze with these stellar nurseries, sparkling like diamonds scattered on a breaking wave. This period of starburst transforms the look of the galaxy. It is a time of renewal. The merger does not kill the galaxies, it rejuvenates them. It stirs the stagnant pots of gas, mixing the ingredients of life, creating new solar systems, new planets, perhaps new eyes to look up and wonder at. The chaos above. This dance continues for hundreds of millions of years. The two galaxies pass through one another, then swing back, pulled by gravity, passing through again and again. Like a pendulum losing its energy, they swing closer and closer with each pass. The chaos slowly subsides. The distinct shapes of the spiral arms are lost, blended together like milk stirred into coffee. Eventually, the motion settles. The two great spirals lose their individuality. They merge completely, forming a single massive ball of light. We call this future galaxy Milkomeda. It will not be a spiral, flat and spinning. It will be an elliptical galaxy, a vast, glowing egg of stars, calm and golden, resting in the silence of the local group. There is a profound peace in this vision. The collision is not an end, but a becoming. It is a marriage of island universes. The Milky Way, which has lived a solitary existence for so long, will finally find its partner. The silence of our isolation will be broken by the arrival of 1 trillion new neighbors. And what of us? What of the solar system? In the chaos of the dance, our sun acts as a small boat on a tossing sea. we will likely be flung outward. Simulation suggests that our solar system might be exiled from the crowded core, sent drifting out into the quiet suburbs of the new, larger galaxy. We might find ourselves further away from the center, looking back at the magnificent glowing heart of Milkomeda from a distance. The night sky would be darker, the band of the Milky Way gone, replaced by a uniform glow of the distant core. Or perhaps we will be pulled in, diving toward the supermassive black holes that wait in the hearts of both galaxies. As the galaxies merge, their central black holes will spiral toward one another, eventually coalescing into a gravitational monster. But space is generous. The likelihood of falling into that maw is slim. We will most likely survive the transition, floating on the tides of gravity, witnessing the greatest light show the universe can offer. It is strange to think that this event, this cataclysmic merger, is the mechanism that keeps us together. In the local group, gravity has defeated the expansion. This victory means that we are not destined for eternal loneliness. We are destined for union. While the rest of the universe fades away, pushed over the horizon by the relentless expansion of space, our local family tightens its bond. The Triangulum Galaxy, the third largest member of our group, is also watching this dance and may eventually join in, adding its stars to the great elliptical pile. The dwarf galaxies, the Magellanic clouds that hover near us like moths around a flame, will eventually be consumed, their stars folded into the great mix. This tells us that the universe operates on two different clocks. There is the clock of the expansion, which ticks toward isolation and coldness, and there is the clock of gravity, which ticks toward complexity and gathering. In our little pocket of reality, the clock of gravity is louder. We should not fear this future, though we will not be here to see it. Our own sun will likely have swelled to a red giant, rendering the earth uninhabitable long before the final merger is complete. There is comfort in the continuity. The atoms that make up our bodies, the silicon in our rocks, the gold in our jewelry, will be part of this new great galaxy. They will be there when the skies change. They will be swept up in the grand currents of the merger, recycled into new stars, or left to drift in the quiet peace of the new elliptical giant. The local group is a reminder that even in a universe defined by separation, there is an urge for connection. Gravity is the physical manifestation of a desire to be together. It is the force that builds. It built the stars from the dust. It built the planets from the rocks. And now it is building a giant city of stars from the separate villages of the Milky Way and Andromeda. As we prepare to sleep, we can picture this slow-motion ballet happening above us. We can visualize the invisible threads of gravity pulling us through the dark at 110 kilometers per second. We are not sitting still. We are on a voyage. We are falling safely and surely toward a meeting that has been written in the stars for billions of years. And just as the local group is a sanctuary of gravity, there are other places in the universe that are the opposite, places where the emptiness is so profound that it defies understanding. To fully appreciate the safety of our crowded little corner, we must now journey out of the local group, away from the comforting light of Andromeda, and into the deep, terrifying hollows of the cosmos. We must sail into the great voids. These are the places where galaxies do not collide, because there are no galaxies to collide with. These are the silent deserts of the universe, the guardians of the nothingness. Let us leave the warmth of our impending union and drift into the cold, clear waters of the deep void. To leave the local group is to leave the warmth of the campfire and step out into the true, unmapped wilderness of the night. As we drift away from the gravitational embrace of the Milky Way and Andromeda, the familiar lights of our cosmic neighborhood begin to recede. They shrink from blazing disks of fire into mere points of light, and then, as we travel millions upon millions of light years further, they disappear altogether. We are entering the deep ocean. We are entering the great voids. If you were to look at a map of the Earth at night, you would see clusters of light, cities, towns, and highways knotted together in intricate webs. But between them, you would see vast patches of darkness, the oceans, the deserts, the great frozen tundras. The universe is built on the same plan, but the scale of the darkness is terrifyingly vast. The galaxies, for all their brilliance, are merely the cities. The voids are the oceans, and they are the true rulers of the cosmos. These voids are not merely empty spaces, they are colossal, spherical bubbles of nothingness that dominate the volume of the universe. Some of them are so large that it would take light, traveling at 300,000 kilometers every second, hundreds of millions of years to cross from one side to the other. They are the most effective shields the universe possesses. They are the reason the cosmos is not a chaotic demolition derby, but a majestic, orderly procession. Imagine drifting in the center of the Botas void, one of the largest known empty spaces in the universe, often called the Great Nothing. Here, you are suspended in a silence so absolute it feels heavy, a physical pressure against the soul. In every direction you turn, for hundreds of millions of light years, there is nothing. No stars, no nebulae, no spiral arms turning in the dark. If you were an astronaut floating here and you held up your thumb at arm's length, you would block out not a single star, but entire clusters of galaxies that lie on the far side of the chasm. If the Milky Way had been situated in the center of the Botas void, rather than in the crowded suburbs of the Virgo supercluster, the history of human astronomy would have been radically different. When we looked up at night, we would have seen only blackness. We would have had no reference points, no constellations to guide our ships, no myths of hunters and bears pinned to the sky. We would have believed with absolute certainty that our galaxy was the only object in existence. We would have thought we were alone in an infinite box of dark. It was not until the 1960s, when our telescopes became powerful enough to peer across the abyss, that we would have finally seen the faint, distant glow of other galaxies on the edge of the void. We would have realized, with a sudden, shattering shock, that the universe was populated. This isolation is the ultimate protection. A galaxy residing in a void, or on the edge of one, is safe from collision simply because there is nothing to collide with. It is a hermit living on a mountain peak, far removed from the bustle and violence of the valley floor. But the voids are not just passive gaps. They are active participants in the architecture of safety. They act like expanding balloons. Because they are empty, they contain very little mass. This means that gravity, the force that pulls things together, is incredibly weak inside a void. There is nothing there to pull. However, the other great force, dark energy, is present everywhere. Inside the voids, dark energy has no opposition. There is no gravity to fight it. So, the voids expand, they swell, they push outward with a relentless, silent pressure. Think of the universe as a foam of soap bubbles. The galaxies are the iridescent liquid trapped on the thin surfaces of the bubbles, while the air inside the bubbles represents the voids. As the air expands, the bubbles grow. The walls of the bubbles, the filaments where the galaxies live, are pushed thinner and thinner. The galaxies are squeezed together into these walls, yes, but the walls themselves are being pushed farther apart by the expanding emptiness. This push from the voids creates a repulsive force. It drives galaxies away from the empty regions and piles them up on the boundaries. It ensures that the vast majority of the universe remains a no-fly zone. By maximizing the empty space, the universe minimizes the chances of random encounters. It segregates the matter into very specific, narrow lanes, leaving the rest of the territory as a buffer zone. This structure is ancient. It is a relic of the very first moments of creation. When the universe was a baby, a mere soup of hot plasma, there were tiny fluctuations, ripples in the density of the matter. Some spots were slightly denser than others, some were slightly emptier. Over billions of years, gravity magnified these differences. The dense spots pulled matter in, becoming the galaxy clusters. The empty spots lost their matter, becoming the voids. It is a system that self-reinforces. The rich get richer, and the empty get emptier. And in this emptiness, there is a strange, haunting kind of life. Occasionally, we find a galaxy drifting alone inside a void. These are the void galaxies, the lonely wanderers of the cosmos. How they got there is a mystery. Perhaps they formed from a solitary cloud of gas that was left behind when the rest of the universe was swept away. Perhaps they were ejected from a cluster billions of years ago, flung out by a gravitational slingshot into the deep wilderness. These galaxies are the most pristine objects in existence. A galaxy in a crowded cluster like our Milky Way is a traveler that has been battered by the road. We have brushed past other galaxies. We have stolen stars. We have been warped by the gravity of our neighbors. Our history is written in our scars. But a void galaxy is untouched. It has drifted in solitary confinement for 13 billion years. It has never known the touch of another. It has never collided, never merged, never had its gas stripped away by the hot wind of a cluster. If there is life in a void galaxy, looking up from a planet orbiting a lonely star, their view of the universe would be terrifyingly bleak. They would see their own galaxy, a bright band of light, but beyond it, they would see a darkness that goes on forever. They might never know that other galaxies exist. They might never know that the universe is a web. They would live in a perfect, unbroken safety, shielded by millions of light years of vacuum. This extreme isolation teaches us something profound about the nature of collision and conflict. In the cosmos, peace is often a function of distance. The voids are the peacekeepers because they are the distance makers. They are the reason the filaments do not collapse into a single tangled knot. They hold the structure open. They allow the universe to breathe, and this breathing is accelerating. As we learned earlier, the universe is expanding, but it is the voids that are doing the heavy lifting. It is within these dark chasms that new space is being created most rapidly. The Boötes void is getting bigger every day. The immense gap between the Milky Way and the distant clusters is widening. The voids are growing, pushing the filaments apart, isolating the islands of civilization even further. There is a theory in astrophysics known as the dipole repeller. It suggests that our own galaxy is moving through space not just because we are being pulled by the gravity of a massive supercluster known as the Great Attractor, but also because we are being pushed by a void behind us. We are running away from the empty region, repelled by the expansion of the nothingness, and falling toward the dense region. We are surfing on the edge of a growing bubble. This means that the voids are the engines of our journey. We are not just falling, we are being driven. The nothingness has power. It has agency. It is difficult for the human mind to value emptiness. We are creatures of matter. We build walls, we fill rooms, we clutter our lives with objects and noise. We see empty space as wasted space. But in the architecture of the heavens, empty space is the load-bearing wall. Without the voids, the universe would be too dense, too hot, too violent. If the stars were distributed evenly, the night sky would be a blaze of radiation. Planetary orbits would be destabilized by passing stars. The delicate chemistry of life would be cooked before it could begin. The voids are the cooling vents of creation. They are the silence that allows the music to be heard. Let us linger for a moment in this silence. Imagine the sensory experience of the deep void. There is no sound, for there is no air to carry it. But there is also no cosmic hum, no background radiation from nearby stars. It is the deepest cold imaginable, just a fraction of a degree above absolute zero. It is a stillness so profound that time itself seems to lose its meaning. In the busy clusters, things happen. Stars are born, supernovae explode, galaxies dance. In the voids, nothing happens. 1 billion years can pass with the same featureless monotony as a single second. The clock ticks, but the hands do not move. This stillness is a preservation chamber. It preserves the geometry of the universe. By keeping the galaxies apart, the voids ensure that the structure of the cosmic web survives for eons. They prevent the universe from aging too quickly. They slow down the rate of interaction. They are the brakes on the cosmic car, ensuring that we do not rush headlong into a heat death of chaotic collisions. And yet, even the voids are not eternal. They are growing, yes, but their growth is leading us toward a final, somber destiny. They are the harbingers of the ultimate isolation. As they swell, they will eventually push everything apart. They will dissolve the filaments. They will break the web. But for now, in this epic of starlight and life, they serve as the great dividers. They are the oceans between the continents, vast and treacherous and beautiful in their blackness. They remind us that we are small, and that our existence is huddled in the rare, precious knots of matter that drift like rafts on a dark sea. We are safe because the ocean is wide. We are safe because the darkness is vast. As we gaze into these deep wells of nothing, we can feel a strange sense of gratitude. We often fear the dark, the unknown, the empty places. But in the physics of the universe, the dark is what saves us. The empty places are the sanctuaries. It is the crowded room that is dangerous. The open field is safe. The voids tell us that the universe is mostly potential. It is mostly space waiting to be filled, or perhaps space that is content to remain empty. It is a testament to the power of the unseen. Just as dark matter holds us together, the voids keep us apart. It is a delicate balance, a tension between the pull of the ghost and the push of the nothing. And we, living on our blue marble, circling our yellow star, are suspended in that tension. We are balanced on the knife edge of gravity and expansion. We are protected by the very vastness that makes us feel so insignificant. Now, as we turn our eyes from the present structure of the cosmos, the web, the voids, the local dance, we must look forward. We must ask, how long will this balance last? The universe is changing. The expansion is accelerating. The era of collisions, rare as they are, is slowly coming to an end. We are moving toward a time when the voids will win completely, when the expansion will become so fast that it rips the web apart. We must journey into the deep future to a time when the night sky changes fundamentally. We must look at the final horizon, where the galaxies disappear one by one and the universe enters its long, lonely twilight. The Afima story of collisions is a story of the past and the present. The story of the future is one of solitude. There is a peculiar and haunting beauty in the idea that we are living in a golden age. We often imagine that the most significant moments of history occurred in the distant past: the violent birth of the stars, the forging of the heavy elements in the hearts of supernovae, the first ignition of the sun. Or we look to the future with a mix of hope and trepidation, wondering what technologies or civilizations might arise. But in the grand, deep-time perspective of the cosmos, the era we occupy right now, this specific moment of 13.8 billion years after the beginning, is a fleeting window of privilege. We are living in the only time when the universe is truly knowable. We possess a view of the cosmos that is rich, interconnected, and filled with evidence of our origins. We can see the distant galaxies. We can measure their recession. We can detect the faint microwave whisper of the Big Bang. But this window is closing. The forces that have kept us safe, the expansion that has prevented the sky from falling, will eventually do their job too well. The story of how galaxies avoid collision is ultimately a story of how they will eventually become complete strangers to one another. We are moving toward the final horizon of solitude. To understand this destiny, we must return to the mysterious engine of the expansion, dark energy. For billions of years, this energy was a subtle background player, a gentle wind pushing against the gravity of matter. But as the universe grew, the density of matter dropped. The stars and galaxies spread out, their gravitational grip weakening with every passing light year. Dark energy, however, is a property of space itself. It does not dilute. As more space is created, there is more dark energy. It feeds on itself. About 5 or 6 billion years ago, the scales tipped. The push of dark energy overwhelmed the pull of gravity on the cosmic scale. The universe shifted gears. It stopped merely coasting and began to accelerate. This acceleration is the defining fact of our future. It means that the vast distances between the galaxy clusters are not just growing, they are growing at a rate that is increasing exponentially. The treadmill of space is speeding up. There is a limit to how fast light can travel. It is the absolute speed limit of reality, 300,000 kilometers per second. Nothing can move through space faster than light, but space itself is not bound by this law. Space can expand at any speed it chooses, and far enough away from us, the space between us and the distant galaxies is already stretching faster than light can travel. This creates a cosmic event horizon, a boundary beyond which we can never see. Any light emitted by a galaxy that is currently beyond this horizon will never reach us. It is trying to run up a down escalator that is moving faster than it can run. The light is swept back, carried away by the rushing current of the expanding void. Right now, this horizon is very far away. We can still see billions of galaxies, but as the acceleration continues, this horizon will shrink. It will close in around us like a drawing curtain. Imagine standing on the deck of a ship in the middle of the ocean. You can see other ships on the horizon, their lights twinkling in the distance. But slowly, the ocean begins to swell. The space between the waves expands. The other ships are pushed away, faster and faster. One by one, they drop below the curve of the earth. Their lights flicker and vanish. Eventually, you are left alone on a sea that is empty in every direction. This is the fate of our view of the universe. In roughly 100 billion years, a time span that is difficult to comprehend, yet inevitable, the expansion will have pushed every other galaxy cluster beyond our observable horizon. The Virgo cluster, the Coma cluster, the thousands of glittering islands we have mapped with our telescopes, they will all fade. Their light will be redshifted so severely that it will stretch into radio waves, and then into waves so long and weak they are indistinguishable from the silence of the void. They will simply cease to exist for us. The night sky of the deep future will look radically different from the one we see tonight. It will be a sky of profound, unbroken blackness, populated only by the stars of our own merged home, Milkomeda. By this time, the collision between the Milky Way and Andromeda will be a distant memory, a forgotten chapter in the geological history of the galaxy. The two great spirals will have settled into their final elliptical form. The firestorm of star formation will have ended. The chaos will have subsided. Our local neighborhood will be a single, giant island of old, red stars drifting in a sea of absolute nothingness. The era of collisions will be over. There will be nothing left to collide with. The local group will have tightened its grip, pulling in the dwarf galaxies and the triangulum galaxy, cleaning up the neighborhood until there is only one massive object left. And beyond the edges of this object, there will be no neighbors, no other galaxies to crash into, no faint smudges of light to wonder about, just the cold, expanding dark. This isolation leads to a profound and somewhat tragic realization about knowledge. Imagine a civilization that arises on a planet orbiting a star in this distant future. Let us say they are intelligent, curious, and possessed of powerful instruments. They build telescopes. They look up. What will they see? They will see the stars of their own galaxy, billions of them. But when they peer past the edge of the galaxy into the deep void, they will see nothing. The light from the other galaxies will have been swept away by the expansion. The afterglow of the Big Bang, the cosmic microwave background radiation that gives us the clue to our fiery beginning, will have faded to virtually nothing, stretched so thin it is undetectable. These future astronomers will construct a model of the universe that is logical, consistent, and completely wrong. They will conclude that their galaxy is the entire universe. They will believe they are surrounded by an infinite, static void. They will have no evidence of the Big Bang. They will have no evidence of the expansion. They will look at their stable, elliptical home and assume it has always been there, alone in the night. They will be safe from collisions, yes, but they will be prisoners of their own isolation. They will never know that there was once a time when the sky was filled with a web of light, when galaxies danced and merged, when the cosmos was a crowded, vibrant place. We are the lucky ones. We are living in the brief, shining moment when the universe is transparent to its own history. We can see the other islands before they sail over the edge of the world. We can read the story of the beginning before the book is closed forever. But even within our lonely island of Milkomeda, The quiet will deepen. The universe is not just expanding, it is aging. The era of frantic activity, of violent collisions, and rapid star birth is the era of youth. We are entering the long afternoon and approaching the twilight. Stars are not eternal engines. They run on fuel, hydrogen gas that is fused into helium. But the supply of gas is finite. Every time a galaxy forms a new star, it uses up a little more of its reservoir. Every time a star dies and blows its material back out into space, some of that material is locked away in dead remnants, white dwarfs, neutron stars, black holes. The recycling process is not 100% efficient. We are slowly running out of the raw material of light. In the deep future, the great star-forming nebulae, the pillars of creation that we admire in our photographs, will dissipate. The bright blue stars that live fast and die young will vanish, leaving only the slow-burning red dwarfs. The galaxy will dim. It will turn from a brilliant white-blue spiral into a soft, ruddy ember. The frequency of interactions even within the galaxy will drop. The chaotic environment of the early universe, where stars jostled for position and clouds slammed together, will be replaced by a stately, frozen order. The stars will be spaced far apart, drifting in their smooth orbits around the galactic center. The black holes will sweep up the debris, cleaning the lanes of the galaxy, making it emptier, quieter, and yet there is a strange comfort in this long freeze. It is a peace that will last for trillions of years. The collisions that we feared, the violent smashing of worlds, were the growing pains of the cosmos. They were the necessary friction that built the structure we inhabit. Without the collisions of the past, the Earth would not exist. Our solar system was likely formed from the shock wave of a nearby supernova or the compression of gas clouds during a brush with another galaxy. We are the children of chaos. But the chaotic childhood is ending. The universe is maturing into a state of permanent solitude. As we stand on the precipice of this realization, looking up at the night sky from the safety of our present time, the silence takes on a new meaning. It is not just the absence of noise, it is the presence of space. It is the breathing room that allows us to exist. We have asked the question, how do galaxies avoid colliding more frequently? And the answer has revealed itself to be a tapestry of forces. We avoid collision because the universe is unimaginably vast, a desert of dark where the oases are far apart. We avoid collision because the expansion of space is carrying us away from our neighbors, turning the cosmos into a place of retreat rather than convergence. We avoid collision because dark matter has organized the chaos into a web, restricting the movement of galaxies to safe highways and leaving the great voids empty. We avoid collision because we live in a sanctuary, the local group, where gravity has created a controlled, slow-motion dance that protects us from the wider storm. The collisions that do happen are not accidents. They are the creative sparks that renew the galaxies. And the collisions that don't happen are the silence that allows life to take hold. It is a delicate, temporary balance. We are poised between the gravity that wants to crush us and the dark energy that wants to isolate us. For this brief flicker of time, a few billion years, a mere heartbeat in eternity, the balance is perfect. It is just calm enough for us to evolve. It is just active enough to be beautiful. And it is just transparent enough for us to understand. So, tonight, when you close your eyes, do not think of the darkness as a void. Think of it as a shield. The vast distances are not empty. They are filled with the protective breath of the expansion. The silence is not a lack of life. It is the condition for it. We are drifting on a raft of stars, held together by the ghost of dark matter, sailing through an ocean that is getting wider every day. The other ships are receding, their lights dimming as they cross the horizon. We are heading toward a future of solitude, yes, but we are not there yet.